Dr. Glen,
Yes, sir.
it's high time that we actually walk people through what our 12-week programs are like. What is core value focused therapy? And from the standpoint of the people that are actually going through it. We've gotten this question a lot. A lot of people have been asking like, okay, can you tell me about the 12-week program? What do you guys do? Like, what is this about? And yeah, it's time we actually do an episode on it.
We're going to break it down for you today.
That was very radio of you. We're going to break it down for you today.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best.
That was nice. And today marks Glen's first day. You got your mic perfectly into position today.
It took only 60 times. You reminded. I was feeling good about myself until you said, "Oh, it took 60."
You're
episodes.
feeling a little too good about yourself, and I was like, "Yeah,
I was
this
puffing
is
my chest out.
on the 61st episode. You got it right, bro."
And then later I was like, "Won't, won't." Anyway.
All right. So this, you know what? Actually, let's jump into the introduction. Welcome to 12-Week Relationships. This is your place for better relationships in weeks, not years. My name is Pye.
I'm Dr. Glen.
Dr. Glen is my fantastic colleague who brings the legitimacy
I
to this
appreciate
entire
that.
program. Yeah, you have 20 years of clinical experience. He is a working professor. You're actually the chair of psychology at Whittier College.
Yeah,
right?
department chair of a department.
Chair.
Yeah.
And this is kind of our chance to bring everybody through what the actual experience is like in going through the core value focused therapy 12-week program, right? And so currently you have a loaded schedule filled with one-on-one clients, but we currently just launched the first online cohort for our 12-week program. So this is life and relationship coaching, and enrollment is now available. We are limiting seats for this, by the way. So you guys can check your emails. You can jump to the links in our bio. You can go directly to the website, but make sure that you actually enroll because we're only doing 15 total seats. And it may not completely fill up. It might go crazy and fill completely out. What we did was a pre-enrollment, and so we've had a good number of seats actually already get taken during that. Now we have a public enrollment phase where anyone can enroll for the remaining seats, but once it fills up, it's filled. So
I'm excited for it.
I'm excited too. It's going to be a lot of fun. We start, by the way, on July 7th. You guys can find all the details in the links. But let's talk about the actual experience that clients are having going through the program. Because, I mean, so far you've been having incredible experiences with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, with all the clients, like it's basically just a walkthrough of your whole history, what's happened in your life, and then taking accountability and start living the life that you want to live.
Yeah. So if we were to break it down, the goal or kind of steps of core value focused therapy, and a lot of these will happen like in different phases, right? So it's not necessarily in order, but we're going to talk through each of these. And I would say number one is kind of understanding accountability. We're going to go into that on each of these points, but let's just go outline. So understanding accountability, then going into transitioning to self-care and understanding like kind of having regard for yourself, mapping out their individual core values, then understanding the nature or the framework for healthy relationships, and then finally kind of putting it all together. So applying their core values to everything they understand, really becoming their own expert. And now let's actually break that down. So going to what does understanding accountability kind of, oh, you know what? I forgot to say this.
Say what?
Our first online cohort, it's life and relationship coaching. It's designed for individuals, but if you want to attend as a couple, you totally can. It's going to be online based, and we have live sessions each week, as well as like kind of accompanying assignments and things that you do on your own. So it's about 60 to 90 minutes worth of session time, and then about another hour of commitment each week from our participants. We are calling this one individual because most of our clients that are coming to us, probably 67% are individuals, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to work on themselves, and then they're struggling in their life or relationships, and they're trying to understand why.
Yeah, so they're coming to us with questions like, should I keep working on my marriage? Is it worth staying? Is it worth leaving? Why is it that so it's married people that are coming individually. Some people have, like, they're coming from emotionally abusive relationships and whatnot. Then we have others who are single and just trying to figure out, what does a healthy relationship even look like? How do I date, and how do I actually find the right person? And then we have others that just want to simply improve on themselves, right? So this first program is for individuals. And so it's geared towards, obviously the solo person. If you attend as a couple, that's totally fine, but you're going to be given assignments on an individual basis. But everything that you learn is essentially going to apply to your life and all the relationships in your life.
Yeah, no, that's true. And basically, what you were saying is people come with basically two questions. Number one, why am I making the choices that I'm making? That's number one. And then number two, how come I'm so different? Like other areas of my life, why am I so good in this area? But then when it comes to like intimate relationships, my life is a total disaster.
Yeah.
And those are the basic questions. Why?
Well, over half of our clients are medical professionals.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy in and of itself.
Yeah, we have a lot of doctors.
We have a lot of doctors. And then the other side is like, I mean, almost every client shares a commonality that they're all successful. They're all successful in their business and in multiple aspects of their life, except they struggle in relationships, or they struggle in one particular one. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a marriage oftentimes, or they just struggle to keep relationships. So it's interesting. And all of these kind of what we have in this program kind of affects every aspect of your life.
Yeah. So that's why, like, you know, at the beginning, we do a basic assessment. We break down all the different areas of your life, what's going well, what's not working so well. And then we tie it back to your relationships, and we do basically look at all of your relationships up to this point.
So why don't we start then from the top? So we said kind of the first goal, the first phase of C.V.F.T, of core value focused therapy. And if you're new to the podcast, if you're just hearing C.V.F.T, this is our trademark framework for therapizing, right? It's core value focused therapy. So step one is understanding accountability. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah. So oftentimes, like, you know, when you're in a relationship, people, like, everything gets enmeshed. Like your responsibility, the couple's problems, outside problems, they all get enmeshed, and it's hard to problem solve when you're like in this kind of like no boundary zone, right?
Yeah.
So what we do is we break it down. So like you need to be individually accountable for what you bring to relationships first, right? So when you're examining the relationships that are not working in your life, first thing first is, what am I doing? How am I contributing to the unhealthy decisions that I'm making in my relationship? So we make sure that you take accountability for that.
Yeah, this is a big one, because I feel like not just from clients, but from case studies, it's a lot of times one person takes accountability for both people in the relationship. Oftentimes, one person refuses accountability altogether. And but especially if you kind of grew up in a somewhat religious background, oftentimes it's very much the men who are kind of responsible for making the relationship work. You know, like, this is on you. This is your fault. You need to make it work. You need to do whatever it takes to please your wife too. And I think that happens on probably both sides. It just depends on your perspective and who's speaking to you, right? But we'll see a lot of people that are in that mindset. If I could have just done more, if I could just be the person that he or she needs me to be, if I can just, it's like over accountability, basically.
Yeah. And then when you're being overly accountable, on the outside, it looks like, oh, I'm being really responsible. But in truth, you're just in a wound.
You're in a wound, you're enabling. Too.
You're enabling, and you're just in this wounded space. And that's what individual accountability means. Like, basically, there's like a spectrum of unhealthiness. So like on the far end, you're just doing really toxic things, right?
Yeah.
On the lower end, it may look healthy, like, hey, I'm trying to accommodate, or I'm trying to be responsible, but it's still really unhealthy. And that's what you need to be accountable for. Like, even if you have expectations, like one of the clients I was working with, you know, she was like, my approach to relationships is, I'm going to set the tone and do like 20 things for this person so that I could just get 2 things in return.
Yeah.
Logically, it sounds like, okay, that makes sense. But in truth, that's just a very toxic approach. You're basically saying, you have to prove, I'm going to prove to you, then you have to prove to me, and then we're going to build a relationship off of that.
Yeah, it's also hyper manipulative to like kind of...
Agreed.
You're doing those things for something in return, as opposed to like doing those things because you want to serve the relationship.
Yeah, and this is where the accountability piece is called. So even what you consider to be healthy, it'll be called out that, you know what, this isn't that healthy at all.
Yeah, so the goal of that phase is really to help each person to understand, these are the areas that you personally are accountable. These are the areas that the other person is accountable. And these are the areas of mutual accountability or responsibility. This is the relationships issues that it needs to deal with.
Agreed.
Without that, you can't get to a place of a healthy functioning relationship, because When you have over accountability on one side and under accountability on the other,
Agreed.
it can only go for so long. Eventually there is going to be a breaking point where one person just says, I can't do this anymore.
No, agreed. And then, oftentimes during like this period, people always talk about the other person and it has to be redirected back. What about you?
Yeah.
It's about you, boo.
Yeah.
It's about you. So
that's the funny side. On the under accountability,
yeah,
that person's almost always talking about the other
person. Yeah. So as long as you're accountable and you take responsibility, that's one of the biggest steps you can take.
Yeah. So that's a sticky one. And I love how we get straight into that and kind of start talking about those pieces. It's also critical to the program itself. Then the second kind of phase of the program is really this transition to healthy self-care practices. It's developing a high sense of regard for yourself. And we'll talk about what regard is, but it's basically self-love, like demonstrating a healthy self-care.
Yeah, having a healthy, respect and attraction for another person, but also within yourself, right? So when you start seeing yourself in high regard, then you're pulling away from all the woundedness that you viewed love before. Like in this kind of limited sense, you're seeing it in a more practical and open-minded sense where you're available to having relationships that you actually want.
Yeah, this area, this transition towards self-care is impactful in many, many ways. I mean, there's the aspects of forgiveness, there's the aspects of self-perception, but also in terms of, really if you think about it this way, the relationships that you create, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in the home, the person that you marry, among your friends, whatever behavior you tolerate is basically a direct reflection of how you think of yourself, right? The relationships you create are a direct reflection of what you think of yourself, but so is your job. So is the, your own just personal habits, the routines that you have. If you have this kind of perception that if I think of myself as fat and lazy and I'm all these things, then it's okay to skip a workout here and there, right? Because I'm just kind of fat and lazy. It's okay that people make fun of me for that because that's what I am. So you put yourself in this place where any of these self-limiting beliefs, these, kind of areas where you have no regard for yourself, you then tolerate someone else treating you that way. You tolerate yourself not sticking with your word, not doing what you promised yourself that you would do. It impacts every single aspect. It dictates what kind of job you will take, right?
No, I agree. And this is the other thing too. Like you bring up a really good point. Like people can have high regard in other areas of life, right? It's like you're mentioning the job and the friendships, and then they're functioning really fine. And then when it comes to their intimate relationships, they're like, they're in this wounded space, and then they're over sacrificing and they're over accommodating. And this transitionary period, this self-care period, like it's broken down into basically like a summary of this, like a Cliff Note version, is people will assume I'm healthy, like I'm successful and I'm doing great in my job and my friendships are strong, but that's not the real me. This is just a facade, right? And then this wounded me in this relationship is the real me.
Yeah.
And they try to problem solve and build relationships from that wound, right? In reality, you are those things. You are the successful person at your job. You are that person with your friends. And then what you're doing in your intimate relationships, that's your wound. It's not who you are. And it's having that reverse. And that's where the self-care, that internal compass and processing, like it's moving you toward a healthier space.
Yeah. In practice, we see it a lot where a person can be very assertive, like in their profession, right? They know what they know. They're assertive. They have colleagues that respect them. They're very successful in what they do. And even within their friendships, they have a lot of healthy and functioning friendships. Then they get back home and they become this meek, submissive person
doormat.
That is just getting walked on.
Yeah. And then once again, the assumption is that's not really me. I'm not those people that have 10 businesses. That's just a facade. The real me is the one that's the doormat and just seeking love.
Yeah.
When it's the complete opposite.
It's the exact opposite.
Yeah. That's just your wound. And it's finding out where that wound came from, where you learned it, and it's just unlearning it. And then making sure that these strengths that you're showing in other areas of your life, you can show them in your relationships.
Yeah. So within that section, we're going into things like, I mean, forgiveness is often a general topic, but we're talking about attachment theory. We're talking about, backgrounds and what else?
Yeah, I mean, we're breaking down like how you were raised. We look at your attachment profile, like depending upon like the parenting styles and the things that you experienced.
Hmm.
And then from there, we're going to look at your relationship history and identify patterns. And this is where, once again, accountability comes into play. What are the things that were your issues that you contributed to? What were the other person's issues? And then what can you do moving forward? So it's this period of shift,
Hmm.
right? You're no longer that wound. That's just a part of who you are. You just got to work through it.
Yeah. And when we say like having high regard, so we haven't, described that in this episode, but if you've listened to past ones, you probably are familiar with that term. But we use this term to describe the way that you look upon someone, right? You can't want a relationship with somebody that you don't have high regard for. And regard can include, attraction, admiration, respect. It can include appreciation of their charisma, it's as much the physical presence of somebody as it is the intellectual and emotional and spiritual presence of them. And so it applies to every type of relationship. It's the factor that dictates attraction. Attraction is important in any relationship, not just romantic ones. You need to be attracted to your friends, but using that term is weird because it sounds sexual in nature, right? The term attraction, it sounds like physical. So we use the term regard in the sense of you need high regard for anyone that you want to have a relationship with. Well, that begins with having high regard for yourself. Like you need to be able to look upon yourself with respect and admiration and say like, this is who I am and this is what I am. This is what I'm willing to tolerate. And this is what I'm not.
No, exactly. And then it's built over a long period of time, right? So regard is not a temporary thing. It's something that's long lasting. Like you mentioned in your book, like status holds regard, temporary regard,
Yeah.
but eventually that could fade, or looks can fade, right? Same thing. So regard from a mental and emotional sense, that's long lasting, long sustaining. It's going to carry you forward.
Yeah. Okay. So from that place, we're kind of ready to move into mapping out of individual core values, right? So that is a pretty intense process, and we get a lot of questions online of like, how do I know my core values and how do I do this? Well, we specifically dedicate almost 2 or 3 weeks of the program to road mapping core values.
Yeah. I mean, they have to do the homework assignments. We meet, we go over it, we break it all down.
Yeah.
So that they're really clear about what their core values are.
Well, and that's just the beginning phases of it, because from there we kind of touch on it through the remaining weeks of the program, right? So core values is a huge focus that by the end of the program, you really understand the nature of them. But just to spell them out, it takes 2-3 weeks. And what that process really is in every aspect of your life, if you don't appreciate the job that you have, it's very likely because it doesn't tie to your core values. It doesn't tie to your own personal beliefs and what you want to be doing. But the question is, well, what are those core values? And most of us think that a core value is something like, oh, I go to church every week, or I'm Christian, I'm spiritual, I'm religious, I'm a hard worker. Like that's a core value. I like to learn. But really the underlying core value is why you're doing those things. And to get to them, it takes time. It takes time to understand those things. And so you might have a strong work ethic, but if I put you in a job where it requires a strong work ethic, but it doesn't tie to what you actually value,
you're not going to work hard.
You're not going to do well, and you're not going to want to work hard. And same thing for relationships, right? If the main reason that we reach a place where, let's say romantically, where a relationship doesn't work is because fundamentally those core values are not, subtracting abuse and that kind of stuff. But what we're looking at is core values that are not aligned. Two people are seeing the relationship from completely different lenses. And so mapping and understanding your individual core values is the first and most critical step of that, because most people don't even know.
Yeah, and then once you know, like, this is the transition where you're no longer aligned with your wounds, you're aligned with your healthier self.
Yeah.
And once you know your core values, you know what that healthy self is, and it's making the commitment to stand in that space.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is that from our research, we've so far, after, it's been now 6 years of total time, but we've been 1 year, we're coming on to 1 year of like clinical work using the model. There's only 20 or so fundamental core values that are shared by everybody. So, and as we uncover more, but we've already put 600 plus case studies through this. And what we've realized is there's 20 actual core values that drive human behavior. And this is going to be part of a really fun research project that you're going to be taking on. Not me. You're the one that,
no,
like
you're
I
going to be
said,
doing
you
it.
bring the legitimacy
Oh, come on,
to the
man.
program. You're the professor. You got to do the academic stuff. But that'll be really fun to actually go through the research project and actually demonstrate that. But it's finding out which of those core values. Most of us only have 3 to 5 of these that drive our behavior, and understanding them will literally make it so you can look at, okay, that's why that relationship didn't work. This is why I'm struggling with my family. This is the area that I can use to improve this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I'm going to build future relationships. Oh, and that's why this job isn't satisfying me the way that I would hope that it would. And this is what I should be doing with my career. And this is what I want to be doing, that I know it's going to stick.
And the way that you're describing it, like, that's how it is, because it stops becoming topical
Yeah.
and going into like all these different like thought processes that kind of go in a directionless space, and it gets to the roots and it gets to the core, and that's where the real conversation begins.
It gets incredibly practical, right? This
Very
is where,
practical.
yeah. So that's one of our favorite parts of the program is there's a lot of academic theory and modalities that are built into core value focused therapy. But bottom line, what core value focused therapy is doing is taking all those things and applying it directly to your life. So it's making the theoretical practical and actually intuitive.
But it takes the mystery out of your choices,
For sure.
right? Because
For
it
sure.
lets you know, like, at this point of C.V.F.T, you know your wounds, and you can be like, okay, look at all the choices I made from these wounds, right? Then you can stand in your truth, in your core values, and know, like, okay, this is why I'm unhappy, or this is why I'm happy in certain areas. I'm going to start moving in a more positive direction.
Yeah. Well, and I can give a personal example of this one, just to, let's relate core values to, like, let's say career choices, right? We have multiple YouTube channels that, one of them has over almost 500,000 people on it. One of them has over 1 million. And we've been able to create these platforms on various places. The TWR platform is growing and whatnot. One of the things that I've been asked quite a bit is, why not be just a YouTuber? Why not just be an entertainer? You're good at this. And I've had job offers for, announcer type positions. I speak Cantonese and Mandarin. So 15 years ago, I was actually offered positions in China to be a news broadcaster and to be speaking in Chinese, doing, like, the news and whatnot. And entertainment has always been one of those areas where I could have very easily pushed into, just make a big YouTube channel and do this. But understanding my core values, I know not only why I didn't go in that direction, but also what pushes me in the right directions, in the sense of, like, I know what I want to be doing. One of my core values is personal growth, but I also have a core value that's centered around helping others and creating, leaving not only my family, but the people that I impact, leaving the world, if you say, better than, the way that I came into it. I want to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of, like, the core values that we have in this 20 is, like, one is making a difference, personal growth, family. And when you look at my 3 to 5 core values, nothing in there is like, I'm not ambitious for the sake of ambition. I'm not seeking wealth or power. And there, by the way, the cool thing about this is that there's no right or wrong in these core values. It's like money. Money can be used. Money is energy. It can be used for whatever purpose, right? And just like a core value, you could seek wealth and power and you can use them for good. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person because you want wealth and power. But when you look at that, as I would kind of think of the idea of being a YouTuber, I could make money. I could do, take care of my family, but it doesn't drive at the core of who I am. What I want to do is, yes, I want to build platforms and I want to create, but I want those platforms to have purpose. I want them to actually change and fundamentally improve people's lives. And then I want to kind of have them there after I leave. Like, when I leave, whether it's when I die or whether I go into something else, I want those things to remain, to continue to be things that not only employ and provide people with jobs, but then to provide the clients, the customers, with things that have purpose and value in them. So it becomes very clear on what I should be doing. Like, when I was thinking of what is this next project that I want to be doing with 12-week university and 12-week relationships, I looked at my core values and I go, this ties perfectly together. I can provide for my family while creating the tools literally for my children to use as they grow up. Like, that was one of my big things, is in 8-9 years when my kids are adults, I want them to have a full set of education through 12-week university where they can go, these are all the life skills that traditional schooling is not going to teach me. And these are critical. And they have them all right there and available. And so you can use your core values to actually process every decision and work through them without wasting your time actually pursuing something that you're not going to enjoy.
Yeah, and it becomes less of a mental activity. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing versus like, okay, this is what feels right to me. This is what I should do.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. Like, there's how much energy do our clients, do people in case studies, how much energy is wasted of the idea of like, I hate my job, or I don't mind my job, but it's not what I should be doing.
Or like, oh, I have to have my retirement, or this is what you do. Like, if you're a family man, this is how life's supposed to be. You know, at a distance, you can say it's kind of healthy, but it really isn't.
Yeah.
Because you're not living to your truth.
Now, how has it been for you working directly with our clinical clients, seeing them tie those core values to the arguments, the fights that they get into, the areas of dissatisfaction in their relationships?
Well, I mean, once again, so this is the beauty of C.V.F.T, because when we get to this space, whether individual or couples, it's like, what are you accountable for? And this is the wounded things that you're bringing to the relationship. And then this is actually what you want. Yeah. But look at your behaviors. They're not even matching what it is that you truly want, right? So once that light bulb pops up, then it becomes about like standing in your core values and your truth. And we make it really practical, right? I mean, you know, literally, once you know your core values, then we break it down into like activities and discussion topics. And it literally becomes like a dating profile for them. And they have a checklist. Okay, we had this discussion with this person. So when they're going on dates, right, they're already in their core value sets. They're already planning activities in their core value sets. So it becomes, is he going to call me? Is he not going to call me? Is she going to call me? It's just, I want to do these things. And then they push it forward. And then naturally they call it the glow. Mm-hmm. They have this glow. And then they're just getting like all these date offers. And then they're like, why is this happening? Because, bro, you're just standing in your core value sets, man. You're being true to who you are. And then they feel like it's magic when in truth, you're just being who you are. You're even without authentic. Saying anything. Yeah. Without even saying it. And then so it's been, this is no joke. Like some of the people, they left really bad relationships, borderline abusive relationships. One of the guys, he's a doctor. We created the checklist for him, right? So one of his things was that he was always like overextending himself and always trying to rescue people because he's a person of service. And then he would always, overdo. So then even his friends are like, dude, set boundaries. So we set his core value sets and, it's broken down in priorities. Yeah. He went from the lowest priority in relationships to the higher, and he did this checklist. Now they're engaged.
That's crazy.
But they've met, it's because over like a 3-month period, all the check boxes have been met. And then this is like a shift versus like him overextending in relationships because he's a person of service. He took her to a soup kitchen and let's do this together because this is important to me. Mm-hmm. And then she was like, okay, I could see that this is important. So it became a shared experience.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What's also really cool is how within a healthy relationship, arguments about areas of frustration, they change into conversations of accountability and value sets. Like we always do this. If we were a couple, right?
Oh, method acting. I want to get into the role.
Yeah, let's get into a role. Maybe I know that, like, let's say that I don't like it that you drink. Okay. Before going through the program and the process, I might come to you and I might say, like, I hate that you drink. You're an alcoholic. You're, and this isn't Dr. Glen, by the way. This is just fictitious, but I don't like any of those things. Yes. And I would basically pick fights and arguments because of this area of I have dissatisfaction with you. But once I understand your value set and I say, honey, one of your core values is to be healthy and fit. And I might say, like, it's okay that you have a drink every now and then, but what if you limit it to maybe once a week and we both have a drink on that time? Because you're not going to be able to maintain, like your health and fitness. It becomes a very different conversation. It's one where I can say, like, look, this is an area that you're not living up to your value, as opposed to me attacking you. And if you don't live up to it, that's fine. But I can use that in terms of, like, it's more so helping each other remain accountable rather than getting upset and fighting about things.
Well, just in that example, you're connecting with me, even in your words. you're already connecting because, okay, yeah, this is a core value of mine.
Yeah.
So I don't feel attacked. I just feel like, okay, you're on my side already.
And I can look at it and I can say, I can also go down, because we're going to get to the last phase of this is becoming your own relationship expert. I can also address it and say, look, I understand what your values are and you're not living them, which means, are you okay? Like, I can come to you and I can reach out and say, hey, is everything okay? I noticed that you had, a couple more drinks than usual. Like, is there anything that I can work on? Is there anything that we can take care of together? And you might say, I'm really struggling with this job. And then we get into a conversation about that. And then we go to, okay, I don't think you're in the right job for who you are and what you need to be doing. Let's start a plan to get you out of that.
You're a really supportive spouse.
Well,
thank you.
It's easy.
I'm going to stop.
You're still role playing right now.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You're a very supportive spouse.
I think it's easy to be supportive when you come at it from a set of values, right? Because you know who this person is, and then you can start to easily identify behavior that doesn't quite fit. Like, when I see you doing that, I know that that's not who you are. And then that makes me curious. Like, is there something going on? Like, can I help in any way?
But even your approach, it takes away like traditional conflict resolution, which is a negotiation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get what I want, or I'm trying to get you to do what I want, versus it's a mutual thing. It's a shared experience. You're trying to understand me and we're trying to work this out.
Yeah. That's one of the interesting things that we talk about is, I know you take a more academic and like kind of clinical view in terms of like the tools, right? Personally, I hate tools on communication. I like them to the extent of, learning how to better communicate, fine. But like what often happens is that these methods of communication become manipulation. Whoever's the better manipulator. If I'm better at convincing you to do something, like conflict resolution in a relationship, first of all, that's kind of a weird notion, because to be good at resolving conflict, to be a good communicator, to be all those things, you really need to have studied it professionally, right? You have people that, like negotiators, they focus on this. And what is a negotiator doing? They're using every manipulative tactic possible under high stress situations to get somebody else to comply. That's what they're doing.
No, agreed.
That would be an effective communicator. That would be someone that's good at resolving conflict. And I think that that's a fundamentally flawed approach to sit here and teach these tools to make you a better manipulator. Instead, it should be, I need to understand who you are and help you be the best version of you. And if I know who you are and that's not who I am, that's not like, if we have completely divergent values, my goal shouldn't be to change you and to convert you to that. It should be that we either align our values and we come together, or we make a decision of whether this is for us or not. But I shouldn't be trying to turn you into something that you're not.
No, I agree. And in the example that you provided, like number one, when you know the core values, there's a connection. Because oftentimes people get really upset. Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? And they think, I'm trying to connect with you. Getting angry and expressing your anger is not connecting.
Yeah.
That's just showing your frustration, right? And just trying to, like you said, manipulate or try to get what you want. The second point is, in that example of the drinking, in that example, it's hurting our relationship, right?
Yeah.
But in this example, this is an individual accountability thing that I need to be accountable for. It's my issue.
Correct.
And then it's bleeding into our relationship
Correct.
issue. So when we're doing conflict, it's identifying the source of the conflict. So in this example, and we point that out, in the C.V.F.T process, I would have to take responsibility, saying that this is my issue. I need to take accountability, and I see how it's affecting you.
I love that you said that, because that's critically important from both sides of this. Like, obviously it's important from your side if you're going to make a change that you're accountable, right? But it's also important from my side to be able to understand the nature of a healthy dynamic. Because if I don't realize this, and let's say that I bring up, honey, you're not living up to your own value set. And let's say that you go on the attack. You like to role play, so go on the attack.
Okay. Why are you getting on my ass? It's just a few drinks.
Blame your drinking on me.
Okay. That's your fault. No, it's because of you. It's not because of the job. It's just because of you. When you get on my ass, it just makes me want to drink more.
Okay. I'm sorry for that. I was just bringing it up and saying that this is your own value. Why do you feel like I'm getting on you, or why are you drinking because of me?
like I said, I don't feel like you're really supportive. So then when I don't get support from you, I go to the bottle.
Okay. So from somebody that has trauma, if you said that, I would internalize it and I would make your problem my fault, right? I would go, honey, I'm so sorry. What can I do to make this better?
No, agreed. And then
What
now,
would I like? Let's keep the role play.
Oh,
going,
I'm sorry.
just for fun.
Okay, it's just like
Honey,
the
I'm so sorry.
The fourth wall.
What can I do to make this better for you?
Yeah, so stop getting on my ass.
Okay, like what is that?
Like right now, like you're just nagging
So
me.
don't ask about it.
Yeah, don't even just bring. I'll take care of it. I got it.
Okay. Anything else you need from me?
And then just be more attentive to my needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I like where this is going.
I'm getting angry.
I like where this is going, man. It's shifting.
Versus if I had gone through this program, let's say that now you're still an unhealthy individual, but I've gone through the program and I understand the areas of my accountability versus yours. This is how the conversation would go. Blame me again.
It's because of you, and you keep nagging me. This is why I start drinking.
Okay. First, you're choosing to drink. That's actually on you. If there's something that I'm doing that's frustrating you, I'm happy to address that. But honey, you're choosing to drink. And I'm only pointing out that these are the things that you said that you wanted. If you don't want those things, that's fine. But I'm just trying to point out that right now, something's going on. So do you want to tell me what's going on?
Yeah, see, I don't like this. So I'm going to point myself to the bottle.
You just don't want to talk about it?
Nah.
Okay. Do you feel like there's any time that you would want to talk about this?
After I have a few drinks.
After you have a few drinks. Okay. So we have 2 kids and I'm taking care of those kids kind of on my own right now.
Yeah.
Is this something that you feel like have your values changed? Is this the way that you're going to go going forward?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a week to think about this and we'll talk again.
Okay.
Like I'm going to start basing my decisions.
No, but yeah, so no, you're right. Like I think you're firm, you're being fair, you're standing in your truth, right? But then once again, like it's really important, right?
By the way, if you're belligerent, don't do that. Don't approach.
Don't
if you were a belligerent partner that might be abusive and whatnot, I'm not going to approach you that way. But I'm not going to let you walk on me.
Agreed.
And blame me for the things that.
Agreed.
And if you continue to say, this is who I am, and then I'm going to say, okay, this is what you actually value.
Well, if you feed into it like the previous version, then you're an enabler.
Yeah.
And then we're making it a couples issue you're saying that this is primarily a couples issue. And then you can never problem solve in that space because I'm not going to be taking any accountability.
Correct.
Right. So, when we're going through conflict, there's basically 3 points, like individual accountability, relationship issues, and then outside resources.
Yeah.
And those are the things. So once you know the source, then you can start figuring things out. Sometimes they blend, but you need to know where the source is coming from.
Yes. And I'm never going to waste energy blaming myself for your problem in this case. Like if I have completed this program and I know that this is your accountability, I can start assessing and saying like, okay, is drinking actually what you value? I can start looking at the behavior and saying, is this the pattern that is been consistently shown over the past, however long? And I can start to understand, okay, based on your actions and the consistency of those actions, regardless of what you've said you value, what you actually value is this. And if that's not in alignment with who I am and the life that I want, to live and for our children, then I can make decisions based on that.
And what you're doing is really healthy. And this is the funny thing that happens when I'm working with clients or individuals. They'll be like, well, what if they get upset or like, maybe I'm not being fair. No, like, or I don't want to share because I don't want to get hurt. A healthy person shares what they want. They're upfront about it. And if the reaction is negative or toxic, then that's it. You set the boundary and you go. That's what a healthy person does. Yeah. Versus trying to, you think that you're being healthy by trying to accommodate, but you're just in this wounded space and then it's just going to go off the rails.
But if I didn't know that, if I didn't have those areas of accountability, if I didn't understand my values versus your values,
correct,
then what I would do is I would take your blame, I would let it dwell and fester, and it would consume me, and I would think of how am I going to do better, and how am I going to take on more, and how am I going to make your life better? No, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to give you some time to think about what you said.
Agree. You're setting a firm boundary with
I'm
them.
going to set boundaries, and I'm going to say, I'm going to live my life, and I'm going to take care of my kids. And I'm going to do what I need to do. But what you do is you.
But it's the reverse. Like the first example is what most people do.
Oh, for sure.
And then they're like, yeah, it's a we problem. And then when they share it with their friends, what do their friends say? You're such a good spouse. You're standing by your man. You're being supportive. So now you're getting positive reinforcement for this actually toxic behavior, right?
Yeah.
Because you're taking blame. Like, it doesn't mean that you don't want to support me, but you're taking blame for something that you shouldn't be taking blame for. And you're letting me off the hook. And you're getting positive reinforcement for it.
Yeah.
It just creates this unhealthy cycle.
It's a weird thing, because then if you go 10 years, 20 years of that, then you start getting
It
societal
is
approval.
and then you're like, it is
you're
me.
such a good...
Yeah.
Oh, and then you do believe that it's your job to
true.
keep the relationship going. It's your...
Yeah.
But then everybody else encourages you. You're such a good husband. You're such a good
Yes,
wife.
yes.
It's incredible. Okay. So I guess that kind of takes us to the phase 4, the step 4 of the program. And again, these are kind of reiterated throughout the program. But after understanding your core values, it's understanding the actual framework for a healthy relationship. Everybody's relationship, or what a healthy relationship looks like to you. I'm looking at the camera, but I realize that a lot of people are just listening. But it's always going to be different. My version of a healthy relationship is different from yours, and it's different from anyone listening. But it does follow the same principles, the same framework. So it's helping everybody to understand that framework. And it starts with, again, core values and how it affects every component. So throughout the 12-week, we're reiterating that constantly.
Yeah, and then we go through all the other 10 components. Like, it's basically broken down into sustainability, what makes it sustainable, common interests, conflict resolution,
core value,
change and growth, right? And then kind of like the more emotional components, like regard, reward, reciprocation.
Sustainability versus, in the framework we call it, like you said, sustainability versus desire. So within desire, we have regard. And you heard us talk about regard and core values, because those are the first 2 components of sustainability on the core value side, and the first component of desire in wanting a relationship. So regard is the first piece of that. But they're all interrelated, these 10 components. And it's understanding those things and knowing, once you understand them, then it's very easy to set healthy boundaries. This is as far as I'm going to allow you to affect me in any relationship.
Agreed.
Whether it's a boss, whether it's a friendship, whether it's family, romantic.
Yeah, and once the emotional cost becomes too much, then like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't need to be doing this anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you can't really get to that place. And that's one of the things that we always say is some of the early questions that we get are, can my marriage be fixed? Should I stay? Should I go? One of the things that we always encourage is, well, don't make that decision until you've completed the program. Become your own relationship expert, which that is the last and final piece. Is all of this is designed that over a 12-week period, you can be your own relationship expert. You can be your own life expert. And not in the sense that you never need therapy again, you never need any of those things, but in the sense that at least you'll be able to self-diagnose. We're going to give you tons of tools along the way, but at least a person can look at what's happening and self-diagnose and see what are the problems. Then from there, they can choose the right specialist, right? Being able to it basically turns somebody into their own, if you were to think of it like a general medicine, like a general practice doctor, right? Who could look at the body and say, this is the problem, and it's a knee issue, so I'm going to send you to an orthopedic specialist. So it puts them in the position to be able to say, this is fundamentally healthy or unhealthy. Or, we're mostly there, but these are the areas that we can work on. And we can do that ourselves. Or this is the area that we need to work on, but we need some help for this.
Yeah, like you're explaining, it takes, the mind racing away. And it's like, okay, if we break the 10 components down, this is what's missing, or this is what needs to be worked on. Okay, maybe I can go see someone now to help me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yen will actually, she'll come in and be like, we're missing some of the risk. Risk is one of the components of desire.
For sure. Yeah.
And she's very much into physical intimacy, and those things are very important, like touch and all that kind of stuff, and the excitement and adventure and going on trips and things like that. So she'll come to me and be like, I'm feeling like our risk is a little low right now. I'm like, yeah, we need to do some stuff, don't we? We need to go and do something different, spice things up a little bit. But it's interesting watching couples start to communicate through the language.
No, it's so funny. Same thing in my house. You know,
Yeah.
we'll talk about core values. Oh, this is your core value.
Yeah.
Counterbalance effort. I need more effort. And, you know, okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're using the language
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
It makes it really easy. Like, two people can very easily know exactly what's going on. And for the most part, I think the majority of issues that aren't, hugely traumatic, the majority of issues can be resolved on their own.
But even if they are traumatic, when you pull away from the woundedness and then you start to experience a healthier version and like, oh, this really is just a wound. I don't need to feed it. I'm going to be in this healthier core value space. That's when your relationships in your life starts to change.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the basic gist of it. So kind of those 5 phases, concepts, that's what we're really drilling into it. By the time they walk away, they can actually have this complete framework from under an intuitive understanding of healthy relationship dynamics. Plus, they can understand themselves, their partner, and what kind of decisions career-wise, friends-wise, in other relationships, what ones are going to be the ones that stick and the ones that need to be focused on. Where do I need to transition to my career to have more fulfillment? Like, what do I want to be doing? It affects every aspect of their life, and they can easily identify and start moving the pieces around.
Yeah, and it's really exciting, after the fact, even during the fact, watching people's lives change.
Yeah.
It's one of the most satisfying things. There's nothing like it. That's all I can say. There's just nothing like it. Watching a person's life change in front of your eyes.
Yeah. I get to hear all about it through Dr. Glen, in the sense of like the improvements and whatnot that are made. Everything is confidential that you have. Your one-on-one sessions are all confidential and whatnot. But I get to hear about these cool improvements and stories and whatnot while I'm tucked away writing.
No, it becomes a very personal experience because, it's an honor to be a part of their lives, but I'm literally like in their lives, right?
Yeah.
And then once again, just to watch it all unfold and then watching the breakdown of like, I'm wounded to the transition to, okay, this is a healthier me, to living their core values and then making choices. Like even before, like you can tell someone's in a healthy space, even before they're doing it, because you can just see it, right? And they're in that space. They're in the glow. Like The Last Dragon. You guys remember that movie, The Last Dragon?
Yeah. The Bruce Lee story?
Yeah, Bruce Leroy. Bruce Lee, he had the glow, man. He had the
I don't
glow. Vanity was in it.
Oh, no, I did remember
Vanity was in it, Bruce Leroy.
That was also a movie where he's fighting cows, wasn't it?
Nah, it's like a 1980s movie. It's like an R&B hip hop style karate movie.
No.
And then like he had to beat like Shonuff, like his like this very intimidating guy. But until once he had the glow and he believed, that's when he won.
I appreciate you bringing that
But
back.
that's what it feels like. People talk about the core values as like a glow. They feel this glow. They're like, when they're dating, it's just, there's a sheen to them. And they're just having like this, wow, it's an amazing experience.
Well, they're living authentically. Something interesting happens when you're living authentically to yourself. You lose a lot of your worries, your concerns, like who's going to judge you, what's going to happen. Like it kind of goes away. So I can very much see that. I appreciate you relating it back to a movie that none of us have ever seen. But
The Last Dragon from the 80s. Bruce Leroy. You guys look it up, man. Vanity was in it.
That almost sounds offensive to me.
Huh?
I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. That sounds sacrilegious to Bruce
No,
Lee.
there are some things that are, but it's a good movie. It's entertaining as hell. There's good music. You have a soundtrack from the 80s. I'm dating myself, but anyway.
Okay. Well, whether you're going through the one-on-one program with us, or if you're doing the online coaching program, it's that exact same experience. I personally feel like I love the group coaching environment for a number of reasons. The people that go through this program with you, they're, anytime that I can learn from my own experiences, that's great. But if I can learn from the experiences of others, I feel like I learn so much quicker. When you go through a program that has multiple peers and you guys are all on the same journey, you get to hear stories and different angles and aspects that you would never experience on your own. And so to me, the potential growth of the online programs is unlimited. Plus the fact that once they've gone through the program, they're always in our group, the Lifetime Access group, where you can continually ask questions and get additional feedback and whatnot. But for those that are interested in our group programs, we have the first group program is now up and running. So it's life and relationship coaching. It's a 12-week program in an online group format that goes through exactly what we just kind of covered here. And yeah, by the end of it, you're going to be your own life and relationship expert.
You're going to have peers, close friends that share those intimate moments with you. It's going to be a great experience.
Yeah, and the way that we do these programs, by the way, is we open and close enrollment, and we run them at different periods of the year. So it's a 12-week process that begins at the same time. And the reason for that is, rather than doing like self-study courses that nobody, does, we start at the same time, and the group environment and that kind of specific time each week keeps people accountable. So it's actually designed to kind of keep you in and get you to complete the program, as opposed to like something that you could just watch on your own and forget about, So the group program that we have is, each one of them will kind of vary depending on start times and whatnot. But this is going to go from, the first one is from July up through
7th, right?
September. Yeah. July through September, 12 weeks. And it's going to be amazing. It's about, for all of our group programs, it's about 60 to 90 minutes of session time, where we're all together in kind of a live environment. And then it's going to be a little bit of like kind of, I don't want to call it homework, but like assignments and reflective things that you'll be doing during the week, maybe about an hour. So in total, think of it about like a 2-hour weekly commitment type thing.
Yeah. And then, there's a give and take that's interactive.
Mm-hmm.
And then once again, the evolution over the 12 weeks, you guys are going to build a very close bond with one another for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, it's been incredible because every single client that's come through the program has had transformative experiences, and we've put a lot through the program now at this point.
Yeah, we put a lot of time and effort into this. And the other thing about the group dynamic, it's a microcosm for what you do in the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put the work in this environment, it's going to translate immediately to the other areas of your life.
Yeah. If you guys want to see testimonials, we have taken testimonials from previous clients and students and put them onto the 12-week relationship site. So those are all coming directly from them. Also in the newsletter, we'll talk about some of the experiences. Again, we do try to keep everything anonymous. So like, it kind of prevents us from sharing too much in terms of those experiences. But yeah, what's up there is you'll see that a lot of people have had some pretty incredible experiences, including many, many medical professionals.
A lot of doctors.
And it's only growing from here. So we hope to see you guys inside of the program. If you just want to learn more kind of about everything, about what we're about, the whole channel, the platform, all of that, you can join our newsletter. So if you jump on to 12weekrelationships.com, you can join the newsletter. We will, basically, in general, we send out what we call the TWR roadmap. It's a once a week newsletter that'll arrive in your inbox. Every single newsletter we send is handwritten. You're not going to see any of these like, here's what happened on the, this week, like type stuff where it's like automated and summarized. Yeah. It's none of that. It's a handwritten message that comes directly from us, usually from me. This is why I'm writing. But occasionally from Dr. Glen as well. And it contains practical tools and insights. Every single one of these is going to be valuable, even when we are in periods of enrollment. So during enrollment, sometimes we'll send out more emails, but even the enrollment emails, every single one of them is going to be valuable. So we want to make sure that we're showing our appreciation for each of you and valuing your time by making sure that nothing that hits your inbox will ever be considered, something that would be spam.
Yeah.
Right? Plus, we will never share your information or anything to anyone. I hate it whenever I receive junk mail, dude, from people that I've given my email to.
That's frustrating.
That's annoying.
Yeah, I agree.
Even when you're selling or pitching something, there should be value in that. Not just telling me like, go sign up for your latest thing or whatnot. Anywho, that's kind of our promise to you guys. In the meantime, though, we will see you guys in the next episode of the podcast. Oh, and if you guys would like to help us out, this is a completely free means of doing so. You can actually jump onto iTunes under 12-Week Relationships and leave a review for the podcast. Tell us what you guys think. Well, you always say if it's 5 stars.
Oh, 5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
If it's not a 5-star,
then
send
DM.
us a direct message.
Yes.
Give us some critique.
Yes.
You can also send us direct messages on Instagram. Instagram and TikTok have our shorts and kind of like short little informational pieces. On Instagram, you can actually direct message us. So if you have concepts that you'd like us to cover on the podcast, or within our shorts, you can also send us those and we can bring it to the podcast. That's it for us.
That's it. Thank you.
Hope to see you guys in the program. Peace.